There's a road in Brazil that appears on maps, but for half the year, it doesn't really exist. It's swallowed by mud, cut off by rivers, and abandoned by the government that built it. The BR-230, known as the Trans-Amazonian Highway, stretches over 4,000 kilometers across northern Brazil. And it's one of the most isolated roads on the planet. It was supposed to be Brazil's greatest infrastructure achievement. A highway that would connect the Amazon to the rest of the country and open the rainforest to settlement. The project was launched by President Médici in 1970 with the bold promise, integrate to not surrender. The idea was to populate the Amazon before other countries could claim it. They promised to resettle millions of landless Brazilians from the drought-stricken Northeast, giving each family a 100-hectare plot of jungle and a dream of prosperity. But here's the thing, building a highway through the Amazon isn't like building a highway anywhere else. The soil is poor, the rain is relentless, and the forest fights back. Today, only about half of the Trans-Amazonian is paved. The rest is dirt, gravel, or just hope. During rainy season, entire sections become impassable for weeks. So where does it actually go? The highway starts in the coastal state of Paraíba, cuts west through the Amazon, and ends at the border with Peru, if you can make it that far. Along the way, it passes through some of the most biodiverse and least populated regions on Earth. Towns with no cell service, rivers with no bridges, and forests with no roads leading out. One of the most notorious stretches is the section between Altamira and Itaituba in Pará state. It's known as the worst road in Brazil, and drivers have the scars to prove it. Let's talk conditions. During the dry season from June to November, the road is passable. Barely, you'll be driving on washboard dirt, dodging potholes the size of bathtubs. But during the wet season, from December to May, the Trans-Amazonian becomes a river of mud. Trucks get stuck for days. Some sections are closed entirely by local authorities. The thing is, there are no tow trucks out here. If your vehicle breaks down, you're relying on passing truckers, locals with tractors, or just patience and ingenuity. And then there's the wildlife. This is the Amazon, remember. Jaguars, anacondas, caimans, and more insects than you can imagine. The forest is right there, inches from your window. Drivers report seeing tapirs crossing at dawn, sloths hanging over the roadway, and once in a while, a jaguar. It's one of the few places left where wildlife still owns the road. Now, let's be clear, the danger here isn't crime. It's isolation, weather, and mechanical failure. You're not going to get robbed. You're going to get stuck in the mud. There are stretches where you can drive for 3 hours without seeing another vehicle. No gas station, no store, no help. Just you, the jungle, and the sound of your engine. So who actually lives along the Trans-Amazonian? A mix of indigenous communities, descendants of the original settlers from the 70s, and people who just never left. Many of the towns you'll pass through have populations under 500. They survive on subsistence farming, logging, and the occasional truck driver stopping for food and fuel. The hospitality is incredible. People will invite you in for coffee, share what little they have, and tell you stories about life in the Amazon that you'll never forget. But it's not all rustic charm. There's also a dark side to the Trans-Amazonian. The highway has become a corridor for illegal logging, land grabbing, and deforestation. Where roads go, development follows. And in the Amazon, that often means forests being cleared, rivers being polluted, and indigenous lands being invaded. It's a painful contradiction. The highway was built to integrate Brazil, but it also fragments the Amazon, making it easier to exploit and harder to protect. All right, so the big question, can you, as a foreigner, actually drive the Trans-Amazonian? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is complicated. First, you'll need a solid 4-wheel drive vehicle, preferably rented from a company that allows travel into the Amazon. Not all do, so read the contract carefully. You'll also need to carry extra fuel, water, food, and a way to communicate. Cell service is non-existent for most of the route. A satellite phone is worth every penny. Timing is everything. Plan your trip during the DRY season, between June and November. Attempting it in the wet season is not adventurous. It's just reckless. Language is another barrier. Portuguese is essential out here. Very few people speak English. A translation app with offline mode is a lifesaver. Budget-wise, expect to spend between 4 and 7 days driving the full route, depending on conditions. That's 4 to 7 days of fuel, food, and unpredictable delays. Total cost for a well-prepared solo traveler: around $1,500 to $2,000, including vehicle rental, fuel, supplies, and emergency contingencies. But here's what you get for that effort: an experience almost no foreign traveler has had. You'll see a side of Brazil that doesn't appear in guidebooks or Instagram feeds. You'll meet people whose way of life is completely disconnected from the modern world. You'll cross rivers on hand-operated ferries. You'll camp under stars brighter than you've ever seen. But let's talk dangers one more time, because this isn't a road trip you can wing. The biggest risk is vehicle breakdown in a remote area with no help available. Second is running out of fuel or water. Gas stations are few and far between, and some are just a guy with a barrel of diesel in his backyard. Plan every refueling stop. Third is wildlife encounters. But honestly, the animals are more afraid of you than you are of them. Just don't camp too close to water sources where caimans hang out. Now, one of the coolest parts of the Trans-Amazonian is the river crossings. Many sections don't have bridges. You'll be loading your vehicle onto wooden ferries operated by hand winches. It's an experience straight out of an adventure film. Your truck balanced on wooden planks, crossing a river the width of 3 football fields, powered only by a diesel engine and hope. Ferry operators usually charge between $10 and $30 per crossing, depending on the size of your vehicle. Cash only, and sometimes they'll barter for food or supplies. There's also the question of permits. Technically, you don't need special permission to drive the Trans-Amazonian. But if you plan to enter indigenous territories, you do need authorization from FUNAI, Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Agency. Getting FUNAI authorization can take weeks and requires a formal request in Portuguese. It's worth doing if you want to visit indigenous communities, but not required just to drive through. Let's talk food. In the larger towns, you'll find simple restaurants serving Amazonian staples: grilled fish, acai, manioc, and beans. But in between towns, you're on your own. Pack non-perishable foods: rice, canned beans, instant noodles, protein bars, and water. Carry at least 20 liters at all times. You can refill at towns, but treat it first. Accommodation is creative. In larger towns like Altamira or Itaituba, there are basic hotels. But in smaller settlements, you might be camping, staying in a local's guest room, or sleeping in your vehicle. Many travelers bring a hammock with mosquito netting. It's the traditional Amazon sleep system, and honestly, once you try it, you'll never want to go back to a tent. Let's address the environmental ethics. Driving the Trans-Amazonian means you're using a road that has contributed to deforestation. That's an uncomfortable truth. But you can minimize your impact. Support local, sustainable businesses, don't litter, respect indigenous land boundaries, and consider offsetting your carbon footprint through verified reforestation projects. One thing that shocked me when researching this: the Trans-Amazonian was never actually finished. Entire sections were planned but never built, leaving huge gaps in the route. By the late 1970s, the military government ran out of money and political will. The dream of connecting the Amazon died, but the road remained, half-finished and slowly being swallowed by jungle. Today, there's been talk of reviving the project, paving the entire route, and turning it into a modern highway. Environmentalists are fighting hard to prevent that. Because here's the dilemma. Better roads mean easier access for people who live there, but they also mean easier access for illegal loggers, miners, and land grabbers. So what does the future hold for the Trans-Amazonian? Honestly, nobody knows. It exists in a kind of limbo, Not maintained, not abandoned, just there. Some sections see sporadic maintenance when federal funds become available. Other sections are maintained by local communities who depend on the road for survival. And that's the thing about the Trans-Amazonian. It's not just a road. It's a symbol of ambition, failure, resilience, and the complex relationship Brazil has with its own wilderness. All right, let's get practical. If you're seriously considering this journey, here's a checklist of what you absolutely need before you go. First, vehicle inspection. Before you leave the last major city, have a trusted mechanic check everything. Brakes, suspension, tires, fluids, battery, no shortcuts here. Second, emergency gear. Carry a full toolkit, tire repair kit, tow strap, jumper cables, flashlight with extra batteries, first aid kit, and fire extinguisher. You'll likely need at least one of these. Third, communication plan. Tell someone your itinerary and check in at every town with cell service. Carry a satellite messenger device that lets you send SOS signals if things go wrong. Fourth, medical prep. Visit a travel clinic before your trip. You'll need yellow fever vaccine, malaria prophylaxis, and a prescription antibiotic just in case. Now, let's talk about cell phone service one more time, because this trips people up. Even when you SEE a town on the map, don't assume it has cell coverage. Coverage maps from Brazilian carriers show huge blank zones along the Trans-Amazonian. The only reliable service is in cities like Altamira, Itaituba, and Marabá. Which brings us to navigation. Download offline maps on Google Maps or Maps.me before you leave. GPS satellites still work without cell service, but you need the map data downloaded. Let's also talk money. Credit cards are useless out here. You need cash. Brazilian reais in small bills. Withdraw the maximum at your last ATM stop in a major city. There are no ATMs between major cities. If you run out of cash, you're negotiating barter deals or hoping a local trusts you enough to accept a bank transfer when you get service. Now for something incredible. The sunrises and sunsets on the Trans-Amazonian are unlike anywhere else. The sky turns shades of orange and purple you didn't know existed. Because you're so close to the equator, sunrise and sunset happen fast. The whole sky changes in about 20 minutes. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. And the sounds at night. If you camp along the highway, you'll hear the jungle come alive. Howler monkeys, frogs, insects. It's a symphony that never stops. If you're worried about sleeping outside, don't be. Locals do it all the time. Just make sure you're not blocking the road and set up away from standing water where mosquitoes breed. One question I get asked at LOT: is it safe to travel solo on the Trans-Amazonian? Honestly, it depends on your experience level and comfort with extreme self-reliance. If you've done remote overland travel before, Patagonia, Mongolia, Outback Australia, then you'll probably be fine. But if this is your first adventure like this, bring a partner or join a group. There are organized tours that drive the Trans-Amazonian, but they're rare and expensive. Most cost upwards of $4,000 for a week-long guided expedition. But if you do decide to go solo or with a friend, the sense of accomplishment when you finish is indescribable. You'll have driven one of the world's most challenging roads. Here's a controversial take. Part of me hopes the Trans-Amazonian stays exactly as it is. Unfinished, challenging, a little bit dangerous. Because that's what makes it special. Once it's paved, once there are hotels and tourist services every 50 kilometers, it becomes just another highway. The mystery disappears. The challenge is gone. So if this video has sparked something in you, if you're thinking you might want to attempt this journey, don't wait too long. The Trans-Amazonian won't stay wild forever. And when you do drive it, document everything. Take photos, keep a journal, record voice notes. This is the kind of trip that becomes a defining chapter in your travel story. Because here's the truth about the Trans-Amazonian. It's not just about driving a hard road. It's about confronting the raw, unfiltered reality of the Amazon and coming out changed. You'll see poverty and resilience side by side. You'll witness the consequences of human ambition carved into the forest. You'll meet people living lives completely different from yours. And you'll realize something important. Brazil is so much bigger, wilder, and more complex than the beaches and cities most tourists see. This is the real Brazil. If this deep dive into the Trans-Amazonian Highway sparked your curiosity about Brazil's hidden corners, subscribing helps us bring you more stories from the real Brazil that guidebooks miss. Your support means everything. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. The Trans-Amazonian is out there, waiting, and trust me, this one is worth the flight. Safe travels, and I'll see you in the next video.